It was in 1923 that the angry German man with the snot-break mustache was brought up on charges of insurrection against the German government. He was tried, found guilty, then given a little slap on the wrist and became a convicted felon. Despite being treated more than fairly by the judge and judicial system, the angry mustache man claimed that the trial was nothing more than a political prosecution, a witch hunt, and successfully portrayed himself as the victim of a corrupt social democratic government. Angry Mustache Man was able to manipulate the public and positioned himself as the voice of the common man, holding frequent campaign rallies where he spoke out against the elitists and cultural degeneracy, branding the establishment as Marxists and communists, people who would take from the good, hard-working German people and give it to the lazy, to the foreigner, to the undeserving, and only he would be able to stop them and save the German people. Only he could make Germany great again. He gave fiery speeches claiming the educational system was indoctrinating the children to hate Germany, hate their traditional values and ancestry, and promised to return Germany to greatness. To rally the base, Mustache Man successfully targeted and blamed minorities for the nation's problems, exploiting already existing social divisions with a us versus them narrative. Many Germans swallowed this bait. The German Mustache Man's Yahtzee party grew in popularity, and he became chancellor in 1933. Once in power, he appointed German oligarchs as his political and economic advisors. He proceeded to privatize government-run utilities, which caused him great favorability amongst the nation's economic elite as their profits soared. With the working class distracted fighting amongst themselves over meaningless issues of culture war and ethnicity, the Yahtzee shut down labor unions and abolished strikes. Progressives and trade unionists were imprisoned and sent to concentration camps. Corporate skyrockets, however, profits skyrocketed to never-seen-before heights, while the working-class Germans were living paycheck to paycheck. Angry Mustache Man amassed great wealth and became a billionaire in his time when adjusted to today's dollars. Rumors of dirty dealings, kickbacks, income tax evasion swirled around him and his associates at all time. But they kept those rumors at bay with a continued narrative of it's only a political prosecution. Nothing he was ever accused of was ever his fault or his doing. It was all evidence of a corrupt system trying to stop him from saving Germany. Multiple assassination attempts were also used to provide evidence that he was the chosen one to save Germany from an evil and corrupt system that the good, hard-working German people were languishing under. He and his gang of oligarchs could get away with this scam indefinitely, so long as they had an enemy within to blame, a deep state, if you will. Meanwhile, they themselves turned the German government into a corporatocracy, a government run by corporations, and robbed the nation blind. Mustache Man targeted minority peoples to focus the anger of the public and keep them distracted, retroactively revoking birthright citizenship for Jews, and began rounding them up for mass deportation, charging them with being illegally in the country. The German media under Yahtzee rule highlighted instances of violence by Jews and convinced the public that the Jewish immigrants were a danger to the real Germans. Angry Mustache Man worked swiftly to dismantle democratic institutions and replace any people or mechanisms of government that could be used against him with sworn loyalists. All ranking department heads and military commanders were replaced with loyalists. These individuals often had no knowledge or experience with the position they now held, but that didn't matter. Only loyalty mattered. Loyalty wasn't just encouraged, it was demanded. Opposition was silenced by any and all means necessary. Media that dared question him was demonized as the enemy, as Marxists and communists, a part of the deep state that needed to be eliminated. Any voice that spoke out against him, he used as fuel against the enemy to feed his loyal followers. The Yahtzee Party propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, bragged about how Mustache Man was able to intimidate the media into giving him favorable coverage to where he didn't need to give them direct orders. The Yahtzee regime and his followers collected books that they saw as promoting degeneracy, or what might be considered woke or leftist today, and they would burn them in large bonfires. They also burned books that promoted class consciousness and ideas of equality. Berlin had a large LGBTQ community in the 1920s, and they even had the first transgender clinic. The Yahtzees lit fire to it and burned it to the ground. The LGBTQ people were sent to concentration camps and forced to wear triangle badges. Many were unalived during the Holocaust. The Yahtzee Party proclaimed that masculinity was under attack and manhood itself was being destroyed by the rise of feminism. By 1934, Hitler proclaimed that a woman's world is her husband, her family, her children, and her house. Progressive laws that had provided women with equal rights were repealed, and new laws were introduced to restrict women to the home and in their role of wives and mothers. They claimed to be bringing back the family and ending this era of dangerous feminism that was destroying the heart of the German family. Abortion had been legal under German law. However, the Yahtzee Party worked swiftly to replace those laws, and doctors who performed abortions could face the death penalty. In spite of Mustache Man having declared himself Führer, meaning leader, or what we might say as dictator today, most Germans continued to go along unbothered, as did most of the world. Perhaps if they had had a history of an evil right-wing authoritarian dictator to look back upon, to judge the events they were witnessing, they would have recognized the signs and made better decisions. Unfortunately, most did not see what was coming or chose to ignore it. Or perhaps they just hoped for the best. Whether by ignorance or by complicity, the failings of the German people resulted in the unaliving of nearly 100 million people around the world. May we never allow this to happen again.